Here's something that might surprise you and maybe even frustrate you. Many candidates with great English still score low in CELPIP Reading Part 4, not because they don't understand the text, but because CLB 10, 11, and 12 candidates use completely different strategies. They don't panic, they don't guess, and they definitely don't read every word. They switch between several smart strategies to find the correct answers fast, while everyone else is still stuck on paragraph 1. Strategic preparation makes all the difference. In this video, I'll show you exactly how CLB 10, 11, and 12 candidates think, what they do differently during the test, and how you can start using this same approach. I'll give you 10 powerful tips that will transform how you handle CELPIP Reading Part 4. If you're tired of running out of time or getting the same score again and again, keep watching. This might finally change the way you see the CELPIP reading test forever. Part 4 is called Reading for Viewpoints, and it's one of the most challenging sections in the entire reading test. You'll read a longer passage that presents different perspectives on a community issue, such as citizens' reactions to a government decision, or the benefits and drawbacks of an economic strategy. This section has 2 parts. First, you'll answer questions about the viewpoints expressed in the main article. Then, you'll read a short comment from a reader responding to the article. This comment has blanks that you need to fill in by selecting the best answer choice. What makes Part 4 particularly challenging is that the answers are rarely stated directly. You need to make inferences based on the language, tone, and supporting details used in the passage. You have 13 minutes to complete this entire section. Now, let's look at 10 specific strategies that will help you succeed in Part 4. Tip number 1 for scoring high is to work through the questions one at a time using a strategic approach. Instead of reading the entire article first, high-scoring students use a much smarter method that saves time and improves accuracy. Here's how this strategy works. Start by reading the first question carefully and identifying the keywords. Keywords are the important words that tell you what information you need to find, such as names of people, numbers, or city names. For example, the question might look like this. Mayor Nielsen supports the residential development, primarily because, and then there are 4 answer choices. Here, the keyword is Mayor Nielsen. Why? Because Mayor Nielsen is a name and names cannot be changed. So you'll likely find this name exactly like that in the passage. Once you've identified the keywords, scan the passage quickly to locate the relevant section. Look for the keywords or paraphrases of those keywords in the article. When you find the right section, read that part carefully to understand the viewpoint and select your answer. After you've answered the first question, move on to the second question and repeat the same process. This question-by-question approach is much more efficient than trying to remember multiple questions or reading the entire passage without knowing what you're looking for. It keeps your focus sharp and helps you locate information quickly. The second tip is to quickly identify the main topic and recognize that the passage presents multiple different viewpoints on that topic. Part 4 passages usually include at least 2 or more contrasting perspectives on a single issue. Usually, the first paragraph introduces the topic and provides background context. As you work through the questions, ask yourself what issue is being debated and why different people might have different opinions. For example, you might read about a town debating whether to build housing or create a park on undeveloped land. Immediately, you know there will be at least 2 sides to this debate. The subsequent paragraphs typically present distinct viewpoints from various individuals or groups. For example, in this Part 4 passage, Mayor Nielsen advocates for housing development and Dr. Lavoie leads a coalition to preserve green space. Recognizing this multi-viewpoint structure helps you stay oriented as you scan for specific information to answer each question. Tip number 3 is to recognize opinion markers and attitude language throughout the passage. These are the words and phrases that signal someone's viewpoint or perspective toward the topic. Look for direct opinion markers like believes that, argues that, maintains that, or is skeptical of. Sometimes opinions are expressed more subtly through modal verbs like should, must, might, or would, or through adjectives like critical, concerning, beneficial, or problematic. The tone of the language also provides crucial clues. Positive language like exciting opportunity or significant benefits suggests approval or support. Negative language like concerning trend or irreversible consequences indicates criticism or opposition. Train yourself to notice these subtle language cues because they often help you find the correct answers quickly. Here comes another essential tip. Distinguish between facts and opinions. This is crucial because Part 4 specifically tests your ability to identify viewpoints and inferences, not just factual information. A fact is something that can be verified. For example, the town's population increased by 15% over the past 4 years. An opinion is someone's belief or judgment, which cannot be proven true or false. For instance, housing accessibility must be our primary focus. The questions will specifically ask you to identify what someone thinks or believes, not what actually happened. When you scan the passage and read a statement, always ask yourself whether this is a verifiable fact or someone's viewpoint. This mental distinction will help you avoid choosing wrong answers that contain accurate factual information, but don't actually answer the question about someone's opinion. Let's move on to tip number 5. Develop your ability to recognize synonyms and paraphrases. To paraphrase something means to express the same idea in different words. Part 4 almost never uses the exact same words in the questions and the passage. For example, if the passage says someone advocates for increased funding, the question might ask who supports providing more money. If the article states that green spaces provide crucial environmental benefits, the answer choice might say they offer important ecological advantages. When you're scanning the article for relevant information, don't just look for the exact words from the question. Instead, look for related concepts and paraphrased expressions. Common techniques include using synonyms like contents or argues, changing word forms like accessibility to accessible, and restructuring sentences while keeping the same meaning. Recognizing paraphrasing is what separates CLB 7 students from CLB 10 and CLB 12 students. By the way, if you want this channel to keep going, write yes in the comments, click like and subscribe. We only make videos that you actually want to watch. Here comes tip number 6. Pay special attention to contrast and comparison words because they function as signposts for different viewpoints in the passage. Contrast words like however, on the other hand, or although indicate that a different or opposing viewpoint is about to be presented. When you see these words, slow down and pay careful attention because the text is switching from one perspective to another. For example, you might read that someone supports housing development. Then comes this sentence. Opposing this view is the Preserve Cedarbrook Coalition, led by retired biology professor Dr. Martin Lavoie. This sentence signals that a contrasting perspective is coming. Similarly, comparison words like similarly, likewise, or agree with suggest that two people or groups share the same viewpoint. High-scoring CELPIP candidates use these signposts to navigate complex articles efficiently and locate relevant information for each question. The seventh tip is absolutely critical. Never let your personal opinions or background knowledge influence your answers. Part 4 tests your ability to identify viewpoints expressed in the passage, not your own beliefs about the topic. You might encounter a passage about environmental conservation, urban development, or education reform. Even if you personally agree or disagree with a viewpoint expressed in the text, your job is simply to identify what the passage actually says. The correct answer is always based solely on the information provided in the passage, regardless of whether it matches your personal views. When answering each question, base your choice entirely on the language and evidence in the text. Ask yourself what the passage states or implies, not what you think should be true. If you find yourself thinking, but that doesn't make sense based on what I know, or I don't agree with that viewpoint, remind yourself that your agreement is completely irrelevant. Only the passage content matters. Now let's talk about tip number 8. Use the process of elimination when answering questions. The correct answer must be supported by evidence in the passage, but sometimes multiple answers might seem plausible. Start by reading the question carefully and understanding exactly what viewpoint you need to find. Then look at each answer option and ask yourself whether there is clear evidence in the passage to support it. If you cannot find specific language or details that back up an answer choice, eliminate it immediately. Often, you can eliminate 2 answer choices quite quickly because they are clearly not mentioned in the passage, or they contradict what the article says. This leaves you with 2 possible answers, and then you can scan back to the relevant section and read more carefully. Wrong answer choices in part 4 are deliberately designed to sound plausible, so you need to verify each option against the actual content of the passage. Here comes tip number 9. Master the comment section strategy for the second part of part 4. This is the reader comment section with blanks to fill in. Tackle each blank one at a time. Use the context around each blank to determine what type of information is needed. The words immediately before and after the blank provide crucial clues about what makes sense grammatically and logically. Then think back to the main article and recall which person or group expressed that particular viewpoint. Finally, watch carefully for paraphrasing in the answer choices, because they will rarely use the exact same words that appeared in the main article. Focus on matching the underlying meaning rather than looking for identical wording. Finally, tip number 10 is to manage your time effectively. You have 13 minutes for this section. That's not a lot of time. Understanding how to allocate this time helps you pace yourself appropriately. A good approach is to spend roughly 1 minute per question. You have to answer 10 questions, so this gives you enough time to spend a bit more time on questions you find more difficult. However, if you get stuck on a difficult question, don't waste too much time agonizing over it. Use the process of elimination to narrow down your choices, make your best educated guess, and move on. Never leave a question blank because there's no penalty for wrong answers in the CELPIP. Keep an eye on the timer so you can adjust your pace if needed. If you finish early, use the extra time to review any questions you were uncertain about. That's it! Those are 10 essential tips for scoring high in CELPIP Reading Part 4. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you're notified when the next video comes out. Also, share this video with your friends so they can improve their CELPIP score too. See you in the next video!